Hello. In today's episode, I want to talk about the same research scientist title may carry very different meaning in different companies of different sizes. In this episode, I will focus more on the day-to-day of a researcher, and there are other aspects of differences, for example, pay structure and career path, which are probably more similar across the board with other software engineers and other developer roles. But if you're interested in those aspects, please leave a comment. I might do a future episode on those as well. And I got the inspiration of today's episode from an audience. This audience sent in the email. Thank you for the insight content. I'm wondering if you have any advice for an industry researcher who's leaving for a small company for a tech lead role. What potential problems may they encounter? How do they scope their work when there's no clear performance metric like in big techs? So this email got me thinking about this topic of working in a small company versus a large company as a research scientist. And thank you for many people that sending emails and DMs and leaving comments. I really appreciate reading those. And if you have a topic in the future that I want me to cover, please do that as well. My contact info is here. Look forward to reading your email. Okay, before I go further, I want to just add a disclaimer that I have not worked in all small, medium, and large companies. This is purely based on my observations and conversation with my friends and colleagues across the industry. The opinions I'm going to present in this episode might not be 100% first-hand experience. They might come from my synthesis of other people's experience. If I get anything wrong or you have a different opinion on something, please leave a comment down below. All right, let's continue. To describe the general theme of today's video, I will use one comparison, which is generalist in a smaller company versus a specialist in a bigger company. So let's go from the small company. So if you are working at a company, it's a startup, and your company might not even have a strong product yet. So as a researcher, your job is not to publish papers or build any long-term plans. Your focus would be to align with the product team to build a product that can sell to customers. So in this sense, your day-to-day is not going to be similar to a research-oriented PhD student role, because in a PhD role, your vision is slightly longer term and you don't have the pressure to productize immediately. But in a smaller company, this is usually the goal. And even though your title might say you are a research scientist or you are a applied research scientist, but in reality, because your company is so small, because your company is likely understaffed, because you have a great vision to build great products, you are expected to do a lot of tasks, more than just a typical PhD researcher would do. So in other words, you're not necessarily inventing 100% new research. Instead, you're more focused on system engineering that can put together products. And also, in a smaller company, usually your budget is limited. You won't have unlimited budget because you are usually on VC money or bootstrapped. So your budget has a very visible cap, and you want to be motivated on how to bring down the cost and build a profitable product. In this kind of small company where you need help with a lot of things, to give a concrete example, when you are trained as a PhD student, you might be primarily working with, for example, PyTorch model if you're computer vision or machine learning students. But if you were to join a small company, immediately you're going to be faced with the practical questions. How to deploy that PyTorch model to hundreds and thousands of people? What if you want to deploy a on-device option? What are the chances? What if your customer does not have the same hardware as yours? How do you deal with that? Being a research scientist at a smaller company is about learning a lot of things very quickly, but not necessarily very deep on either of things. So if you're interested in being an entrepreneur or building your own startup in the future, I think this is a very viable path because it gives you a good overview of what it takes to ship a product, and you have the chance to work in a lot of those nodes in the pipeline. And as we'll share later part in the video, you will see, although in medium or larger company, you will still have the chance to experience the whole pipeline, but you won't be able to contribute to them as much as a small team, because as your team grow bigger, everyone gets specialized. This goes back to our original term. Smaller teams usually means more generalist, and bigger team usually will embrace specialist. Okay, so now we talk about the small company. and that has very little product. That's still focusing on product building, how to ship the first profitable product with product market fit. And then now let's take one step further. Let's talk about medium-sized company which has maybe one or two very competitive product, maybe has already it is in the process of being going public, or is already public, and it's already making solid revenue on this one or two very competitive products. And now the company is starting to make demands to research team. Hey, I have this one very successful product. How can I make it better? Like, for example, if we take computer vision example, now we have very specific algorithm. Like, let's say we have a cat detector. Now we want to make this cat detector better, faster, cheaper to run. And this, at this point, it will feel like it's more similar to a typical PhD student, because now you don't have to worry about your product making money, because that's been done in the past, 5 to 10 years by the whole team. And now as a research scientist in a medium-sized company, you have a very tangible goal, which is this one product, and your goal is to improve this one product in the specific needs that they have. And at this point, you have more budget, you have more GPUs, you have more collaborators, your team members, because again, your company is making some money. They have the budget to hire people, to buy more resources. But note that your research is still very much tied to this one particular product, because your company is not that big. Your company is very focused on the very small set of products. So it's of the company's best interest to have researchers that focus on, that are passionate about this one very narrow problem. And so you can't make very broad contribution, like say, I'm going to invent a foundational model for image detection, that object detection. That's usually not very aligned with medium-sized model. And lastly, I want to talk about the large companies. And these are the ones that people are really familiar with, like all the big tech company. They have a research branch and they have many, many product lines. And I think one sharp difference here is that once the company have many products, then the product teams will start have abstracted high-level needs. For example, I just need this efficient machine learning inference framework. I just need this really, really robust text generation model. I really need this autocorrect feature across all my product line. And at this point, as a research scientist, your role become very, very similar to what it would do, like to what was traditionally thought as an academic researcher, because you are farther and farther away from the product frontline. Instead, you are working on these abstracted high-level goals. Because you have so many products that's making money for the company, you also have a large amount of resources to perform your task. So instead of focusing on shipping a successful product, like what you would do in a small company, now you won't think about those questions, those problems as much. Instead, you will focus on more open-ended research, more baseline, more fundamental research that would help the whole company move forward. Of course, there are exceptions to my description. For example, if you work on a large company, but your research team is embedded in a particular product, your clients is this one product, not like 10, 20 product of your whole company, then your day-to-day will be more similar to the medium-sized company. And similarly, if you're in a large company and you are in a, for example, incubator team within a large company, your mandate is to push out a new product next year, go into this new territory, then your day-to-day will be more similar to the small company, because now you are no longer serving an existing product or a existing family of product. Instead, your goal is to build a new product. So your day-to-day will be similar to those in a small startup. So now we've talked about the research difference in small, medium, and large companies. Let's go back. Let's revisit the question this audience asked. So if they want to switch from a big company to a small company, usually it means the small company will have larger scope, which means it will have many non-research tasks. It will have direct customer impact, and the researcher is likely a critical part of the success of the product. And Whereas if they stay at a large tech company, large research team, maybe they will have a smaller scope. For example, the team is just to increase the object detection accuracy. It's very abstract. It's just to improve that benchmark from 89% to 90%. The scope is relatively narrow. It's just to do this one thing. But its research, once it ships into 20 products, it can impact millions of customers. So that's one adjustment that you need to think about. Like one needs to think about whether you like to work on a narrow thing and impact customers, or build more like system building a new product that can reach new customers and find new product market fit. And maybe the scope is somewhat related to the question of when there's no clear performance metric, like in big techs. Like in this example, in big tech, if you are working on object detection, your metric is clear. Just improve that percentage quarter by quarter, year by year. But in a small company, it's more like build a successful product. It's very vague. It doesn't have a well-treaded path for you to just keep increasing one benchmark. So in this sense, you want to chat with the leadership team to align with what the vision is and see if you buy into that product vision, because what you do will be directly helping achieving that product vision. Building a product, it's hard to quantify each component. Instead, it's usually a organic process that takes a lot of different expertise and hard to quantify. Another thing you think about is resource. If you're working on a large-scale machine learning project, I think it's a very practical concern that small companies won't have the budget as big tech. What are the GPU budgets for each researcher, and so on and so forth. And one last thing I want to mention is that going back to the generalist and specialist distinction between small and large company. Like you want to think about whether you enjoy being a specialist or you enjoy being a generalist. I think as I've read in some like startup blogs, like going to a smaller company is not just a job change, it's more like a lifestyle change, because it impacts every aspect of your day-to-day, and sometimes it may change your personal life as well, because different companies at different stages have different pace. You want to think about what lifestyle you want. So this is my personal view on how a researcher fits in a small, medium, or large companies. As I said earlier, I have not worked in all small, medium, large company before, so my views might be limited. If I get anything wrong, please correct me down below in the comment section, or send me an email, and I will bring that up in a future episode.